Should you be taking finasteride as an effective means of combating your hair loss? Well, I've been taking it for the past 2 years now, and I'm here today to share with you the real pros and cons about taking finasteride. Let's get into it. The first pro is its ease of use. Since most finasteride is prescribed as a once daily tablet, it pretty much takes less than a minute for you to take your daily dose of finasteride, which is really a no-brainer. The first con would have to be the cost. Since male pattern baldness is not classified as a medical condition, if you're looking to use health insurance to supplement the cost of finasteride, well, unfortunately, you're out of luck and are pretty much going to pay 100% out of pocket each month. But the good thing is, if you go with the generic versions versus the branded versions, it comes out to around $40 to $50 a month, but still that may be a little bit much for people to consider. The second pro is that it's extremely easy to get a prescription for finasteride. It's so easy, in fact, that you could do it from the comfort of your own home with a lot of different telemedicine companies in your area. This is the route that I took. I used a company called Felix Health here in Toronto, where I pretty much filled out a health history form, spoke with a physician, and a week later, I pretty much got my prescription in the mail. So this ease of use can really help you make that deciding factor, because going into a doctor's office and having to speak to somebody face-to-face about your hair loss, it's not the most comfortable situation that you're going to find yourself in, so it's a great option that these alternative routes still exist. The second biggest con is that it won't regrow your hair. Finasteride is meant to stop hair loss by inhibiting DHT production. If you're taking 1 milligram finasteride, it's about 60 to 65% of DHT inhibition. Now, are there cases out there where guys have experienced regrowth from just stopping that additional DHT buildup? Yes, but can you guarantee it for yourself? No. The primary purpose is to stop hair loss in its tracks. So if your hair loss has been pretty bad, you may not see even any regrowth, but if your hair loss was relatively minor, it actually may be okay for you. But honestly, it is just half of the story when it comes to having a well-rounded hair regrowth regimen. With all that being said, it will stop your hair loss. There are different strengths of finasteride, I would say, whether if it's 1 milligram a day, 3 milligrams, dutasteride, or Proscar. With the ones that you go up with in milligrams and dosages, they tend to have a little bit more higher incidence of side effects, but if you're really looking for something that will stop your hair loss, it'll have to be some form of finasteride. Now, people will argue that there's better natural alternatives like saw palmetto, zinc. Yes, the efficaciousness of it can be a little bit up for debate, especially when you're talking about a wide scale. Are those great organic options with no side effect profiles almost whatsoever? Yes, I would say have that as a supplement in addition to your finasteride, so you can have a well-balanced hair loss prevention routine versus going with that as your primary option, which actually may be more expensive than the $40, $50 a month that you'd be spending for finasteride. Now, one of the biggest cons is the potential side effects. Now, let's take a look at the objective research when it comes to finasteride. Finasteride has been prescribed to over 30 million men for the past 25 years just across the United States, and side effects have an incidence rate of 1 to 3% of cases. Even though it's fairly low, you would still have a 97 to 99% chance of being fine, but even that 1 to 3% chance, it can be a turnoff for most guys, especially when it comes to the impact on your sexual health, such as your libido, erectile function, testosterone levels. These three are one of the most hot button topics when it comes to talking about the side effects of finasteride, because the research really goes against the whole post-finasteride syndrome narrative, because a lot of what the modern research has concluded about all those side effects is a lot of it can be psychologically induced. If you think you have a lower sex drive, if you think your testosterone levels low, if you think your erectile function is not optimal, then it potentially could be more psychologically induced. I have yet to see a lot of concrete evidence for on a wide scale. So we're talking RCTs or meta-analysis for guys who really experience post-finasteride syndrome. A lot of it is anecdotal or case studies or case series, but I understand if you go in places like Reddit and read story after story back to back of people having post-finasteride syndrome on a specific form, there's a little bit of selection bias there. So you would have to really do your own research, be objective as possible when it comes to the side effects, and really make an informed decision there. A lot of research that I also saw is people who do experience some side effects, if they were lowered on their dosage of finasteride, even from that 1 milligram a day to maybe 1 milligram every second day, they can actually reduce or completely eliminate their side effects within a 3 to 6 week time frame because of the half-life of finasteride in your system is about 72 hours. So it's a little bit more than meets the eye when it comes to the side effects, which I really would recommend you guys take the additional time to do your own research and really find a conclusive answer for your situation. This may be the biggest pro when it comes to finasteride, and that is that it will make any form of hair growth stimulants that much more effective. A great hair regrowth routine is a two-pronged approach. One, of DHT inhibition, whether that may come from primarily finasteride, nizoral, ketoconazole shampoo, and a good and effective hair growth stimulation, whether that's microneedling, peppermint oil, minoxidil, PRP injections. You need to have that hair loss stopped in its tracks. If not, you are always fighting an uphill battle. If your rate of hair loss is exceeding the rate of new hair growth stimulated, you are never going to get the results that you want. But if you decrease that and your rate of new hair production is a lot higher than your hair loss is, you're going to get some pretty good results with it. And unfortunately, it cannot be done without having that block, 50% of it being DHT inhibition, primarily coming from some form of finasteride. With that being said, another big con is that finasteride is unfortunately a lifelong commitment. With the potential side effects, the costs, this may be the determining factor whether somebody takes finasteride or not. But once you're on it, or as long as you want to keep your hair and prevent hair loss from coming back, you probably will need to be on it for life. And it is really the best DHT inhibitor that we have right now. We don't know what things could be 10, 15 years from now when it comes to the DHT inhibition in men's hair loss medication space. There may be a much better option out there that doesn't need to be a lifelong commitment, but right now, the longer you want to keep your hair, you got to stay on finasteride. And if you don't have any side effects and the costs aren't too much for you, then it's a no-brainer. But if the $40, $50 every month for the rest of your life is a lot, and you're still worried about the potential side effects or coming off of it and developing some side effects, whether if it's going to be post-finasteride syndrome or not, it's up for debate. It may be something to consider. Now, the last point is both a pro and a con, and that is whatever surgical or non-surgical intervention that you take for regrowing lost hair, finasteride will be prescribed to you, whether you're doing an FUE, an FUT, or PRP injections like myself. Finasteride will always be prescribed to you to prevent further hair loss. That could be the determining factor for you for not taking finasteride if you are willing to spend a few $1,000s on, let's say, a hair transplant to really, make everything look like you never had any hair loss. To begin with, you're still going to have that lifelong and monthly commitment, financially wise, to finasteride. However, if you're a guy that was already taking it, you're already ahead of the game, and you're bound to probably maximize your results because you've already recovered a lot of lost ground, prevented a lot of further hair loss, or maybe even stopped it in its tracks. So whatever surgical or non-surgical option that you take, it's going to be that much more effective. And there you guys have it, the 5 pros and cons of taking finasteride. I tried to keep it as objective as possible. Fingers crossed it didn't come off as too biased, being pretty okay with taking finasteride, but hopefully this provides you a little bit more insight into making an informed decision for yourself, as well as different areas that you can research into to help really answer any questions that you have about finasteride and potentially, jumping on it or not. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, comment your thoughts and opinions down below, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.